Fire she came out of the water thinking she was alone, then froze when she saw the cowboy watching. She had not planned this trip for weeks or months. It happened suddenly, on a day when everything inside her felt too heavy. The city felt loud, crowded, and full of reminders she did not want to face anymore. Every street, every cafe, every familiar place reminded her of things she had lost and conversations that ended without answers. That morning she packed a small bag, locked her apartment, and started driving without a clear plan. She just knew she needed silence. The road slowly changed as she drove farther away. Tall buildings turned into small houses, then open land. Traffic became lighter. The noise faded. With every mile, her shoulders relaxed a little. She rolled the window down and let fresh air touch her face. It felt like breathing again after holding her breath for too long. She remembered hearing about the lake from someone long ago. A quiet place hidden behind ranch land. Not many people knew about it. It was not marked clearly on maps, which made it perfect. She followed dirt roads, past fences and open fields, and finally parked her car under a tree. There were no other vehicles nearby. No voices. No movement, just wind and distant birds. She stepped out of the car and stood still for a moment. The silence felt strange at first, almost uncomfortable, but then it wrapped around her like a soft blanket. She took a deep breath and walked toward the water. The lake was calm, reflecting the sky like a mirror. It looked untouched, peaceful, as if time moved slower there. She sat on a rock near the edge and took off her shoes. The ground was cool beneath her feet. She dipped her toes into the water and felt a gentle chill. It made her smile for the first time in days. Without overthinking, she stepped in slowly. The water reached her ankles, then her knees. She moved carefully, enjoying the feeling, letting the cold pull her out of her thoughts. As she walked deeper, she closed her eyes for a moment. Memories tried to return, but she pushed them away. This place was not for remembering pain. It was for letting go. She focused on the sound of water moving around her, on the sky above, on how small her problems felt in such a wide, open space. She swam slowly, not far from the edge. The water held her weight, making her feel lighter, almost free. For those moments, she forgot who had hurt her, who had walked away, and who she used to be. She was just a person in water, breathing, existing. After some time, she felt tired in a good way. Calm, tired. She turned back toward the shore and walked out of the lake. Drops of water fell from her hair and arms, catching sunlight as they fell. She felt refreshed, like she had washed something heavy off her heart. She reached for her towel, ready to wrap herself in warmth, when something made her pause. At first she thought it was just her imagination, a feeling like being watched. She lifted her head slowly, expecting to see nothing. After all, she believed she was completely alone. There had been no cars, no sounds, no signs of anyone nearby. But then she saw him. He stood at a distance, near a fence that marked the edge of the land. He was not moving, not approaching, just standing there, clearly as surprised as she was. He wore a hat, worn boots, and simple work clothes. A cowboy, she thought without meaning to. Someone who belonged to this land in a way she never could. Her body froze. Her mind raced. 1,000 thoughts hit her at once. How long had he been there? Had he just arrived? Had he seen everything? Her face grew warm and she quickly grabbed her towel, holding it close. Her heart beat fast, loud in her ears. He looked away almost immediately, turning his head to the side as if to give her space. His body language showed hesitation, not confidence. That small action calmed her a little. He had not meant to intrude. That much was clear. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice carrying across the quiet space. It was calm but unsure. "I thought the lake was empty." She nodded, though he could barely see it. Words felt stuck in her throat. She was embarrassed, yes, but also confused. She had come here to be invisible, to disappear for a few hours, and now someone had seen her at her most unguarded moment. "It's okay," she finally said softly. Her voice sounded different to her own ears, smaller. Neither of them moved right away. The silence returned, but it felt different now, thicker, charged with something she could not name. He stayed where he was, respectful, not crossing the invisible line between them. She finished drying off and dressed quickly, her movements careful. When she looked up again, he was still there, now leaning lightly against the fence, hat in his hands. He looked uncomfortable, like he was deciding whether to leave or explain himself. "This land's part of the ranch," he said after a moment. "I come by sometimes to check on things. Didn't expect anyone out here today." "I didn't think anyone knew about this place," she replied honestly. "Most don't," he said. A small smile appeared, brief and unsure. She studied him for a second. He did not look threatening. Just quiet, a man used to open spaces and long days. There was something tired in his eyes, something familiar, not exhaustion of the body but of the heart. "I'll leave if you want," he added quickly. "Didn't mean to make you uncomfortable." She surprised herself by shaking her head. "No, it's okay. I was leaving soon anyway." Another pause. Wind moved across the lake, creating small ripples. Birds flew overhead. Life continued as if nothing unusual had happened. She realized something then. The moment that had startled her also reminded her she was alive, present, seen. Not in a bad way, just seen. And somehow that mattered more than she expected. She gathered her things slowly, not rushing. When she stood ready to go, she looked back at the lake one last time. It was still peaceful, still beautiful, but it no longer felt like an escape. It felt like the beginning of something she did not yet understand. As she walked toward her car, she felt his presence behind her, not following, just existing in the same space. She did not know his name, did not know his story, but she knew this moment would stay with her. What she thought would be a quiet, lonely escape had turned into something else entirely. And as she drove away, she couldn't stop wondering if this place, and the man she met there, would pull her back. The road stretched ahead, quiet and empty, yet her thoughts were crowded. She kept seeing the moment again and again, the surprise, the stillness, the way he had looked away first. It should have been embarrassing enough to forget, but instead it stayed with her, warm and heavy. When she reached the small place she was staying for a few days, she parked and sat in the car for a long time. The engine was off, but she did not move. She stared at the dashboard, then closed her eyes. She had come to this area to be alone, to heal quietly. Meeting someone had not been part of the plan, especially not someone who now felt strangely important, even though she did not know his name. That night, sleep came slowly. Every time she closed her eyes, the lake returned. The quiet water, the fence. The man standing there, unsure and respectful. She told herself it meant nothing. People cross paths all the time. Still, a small part of her wondered if she would see him again. The next morning, sunlight filled the room early. She woke up feeling restless. She tried to distract herself, made coffee, checked her phone, stared out the window. The calm she had felt at the lake was gone, replaced by a gentle pull she could not explain. Without thinking too much, she grabbed her keys. The road back to the lake felt shorter this time. Her heart beat a little faster with every turn. She told herself she was only going for the water, for the peace, but deep down she knew she was also looking for something else. When she arrived, the place looked the same. Quiet, empty, no cars, no movement. A small wave of relief and disappointment washed over her at the same time. She walked toward the water, slower than before, more aware of her surroundings. She sat near the edge, hugging her knees, watching the surface of the lake. The wind was gentle. The sky was wide and clear. She stayed there for a long time, just breathing. "You came back." The voice startled her, but not as sharply as before. She turned and saw him standing a few steps away, not too close. He was dressed the same, simple clothes, boots, hat pushed back slightly. He looked just as surprised to see her. "I wasn't sure you would," he added quickly, as if he worried he sounded strange. "I wasn't sure either," she said honestly. They stood there facing each other, unsure how to continue. The awkwardness returned, but it was softer now, less sharp, familiar even. "I'm sorry about yesterday," he said. "I should have called out sooner." "It's okay," she replied. "I didn't think anyone came here." "I usually don't," he said, "just sometimes." Something about the way he said it made her curious. "Sometimes what?" "Sometimes I need quiet too," he answered after a pause. She nodded. That made sense, more sense than she expected. They ended up sitting on separate rocks, not too close but close enough to talk easily. At first they spoke about small things, the weather, the land, how long she planned to stay in the area. "I'm here for a few days," she said. "Just needed a break." "From?" he asked gently. She thought about it, then shrugged. "Life, I guess." He smiled a little. "Yeah, I get that." He told her about the ranch, about long days and early mornings, about how quiet the land could feel even when there was always work to do. His voice was calm, steady. Listening to him felt easy. She shared small pieces of herself. Not the deep pain, not yet, just enough. Where she was from, what she used to enjoy before everything became complicated. They talked longer than either of them expected. Time moved differently there. The sun shifted in the sky before she noticed. At one point she laughed at something he said, a real laugh that surprised her. She covered her mouth, embarrassed, then stopped herself. She did not want to hide anymore. Not here. "I'm glad you came back," he said quietly. She looked at him, searching his face for meaning. He was not flirting, not pushing, just honest. "So am I," she replied. They walked around the lake together, keeping a respectful distance. Sometimes silence filled the space between them, but it was comfortable, not forced. Eventually she checked the time and realized she needed to go. A small ache formed in her chest. "I should head back," she said. "Yeah," he replied, nodding. "Me too." They stood near the path, unsure how to say goodbye. "I'm Sam," he said finally. She smiled. "I'm glad to know your name." "And yours?" he asked. She told him. He repeated it once softly, like he was testing how it sounded. "I'm usually around here," he said. "If you come back." "I might," she replied, surprised at how easily the words came out. She walked away slowly, not rushing this time. She felt lighter but also thoughtful. Something had shifted. She did not know what it would become, but she knew one thing: she was no longer just running away. As she drove back, she realized she was smiling. And somewhere by the lake, Sam stood watching the water, knowing his quiet routine had changed too. The next time she went to the lake, she did not feel nervous. Instead, there was a quiet excitement inside her, something gentle that made her steps lighter. She noticed small things on the way, the color of the sky, the sound of gravel under her tires, the smell of open land. It felt like she was slowly waking up after a long sleep. Sam was already there when she arrived. He stood near the water, skipping small stones across the surface. When he saw her car, he straightened and gave a small wave. It was not big or dramatic, just simple and real. She smiled without thinking. "You're early," she said as she walked closer. "Could say the same about you," he replied. They laughed softly and the moment felt easy, natural, like they had known each other longer than a few short meetings. They sat near the lake again, closer this time but still leaving space. The sun was warm but not too strong. The water moved gently, reflecting light onto their faces. For a while they just watched it, letting the quiet do the talking. "Do you come here often?" she asked. "More than I used to," he admitted. "It's different now." Different how? He thought for a moment. "Feels less empty." She understood that more than she expected. "Yeah," she said softly, "I feel that too." That day their conversation went deeper, slowly, carefully, like stepping into water to test the temperature before swimming. Sam talked about growing up on the ranch, about responsibility coming early in life. He explained how people often thought a quiet life meant an easy one, but that was not always true. "Some days," he said, staring at the lake, "the silence gets loud." She nodded. "I know that feeling." She told him about her life in the city, about how crowded it was, yet how alone she had felt. She did not share every detail, but she spoke honestly about disappointment and change, about plans that fell apart, about learning to start over when you did not want to. Sam listened without interrupting. He did not rush her or try to fix anything. He just listened. That alone made her feel lighter. "You don't have to explain everything," he said when she paused. "Some things don't need words." That sentence stayed with her. Over the next few days, meeting at the lake became something unspoken but expected. Sometimes they talked a lot. Sometimes they sat quietly. Sometimes they walked along the shore, pointing out small details, birds, patterns in the water, clouds shaped like familiar things. Once she asked him why he stayed in such a quiet place when he could leave. He smiled a little. "This land raised me. Leaving feels like turning my back on something that never left me." She thought about that later alone, about roots, about what it meant to belong somewhere. As they grew more comfortable, she noticed small things about him. The way he always waited for her to sit first. How he never stood too close unless she moved closer first. How his voice softened when he talked about things that mattered. He noticed things about her too, when she smiled more easily now, when her shoulders were less tense, when she laughed without quickly pulling back. One afternoon, the sky darkened unexpectedly. Wind moved across the lake, stronger than usual. "Looks like rain," Sam said. They both stood, unsure whether to leave or stay. A few drops fell, light at first. "We could sit under that tree," she suggested. They moved together, standing beneath wide branches as rain slowly increased. The sound of it hitting leaves and water filled the air. They stood close now, not touching, but aware of each other's presence. "This is nice," she said. "It is," he agreed. The rain did not last long, but the moment stayed. Something quiet and meaningful passed between them, unspoken but clear. Later, as they walked back toward their cars, she hesitated. "Sam," she said, "can I ask you something?" "Of course. Why are you really coming here?" He stopped walking, took a breath. "Because it reminds me I'm more than my routine," he said honestly. "And because when you're here, it feels like time slows down." Her heart beat faster, but not in fear, in recognition. "I feel that too," she admitted. They stood there facing each other, the space between them smaller than before. Not crossed, but close. Neither reached out, neither rushed. It was not about that. It was about understanding. That night back at her place, she realized she had not thought about leaving once that day. Not about the past, not about what hurt her before. She felt present, grounded, and that scared her a little, because presence meant possibility, and possibility meant risk. The next morning, she woke with a strange mix of hope and caution. She knew she could not stay forever. Her life was elsewhere. Sam's life was rooted deeply where he stood. The question she did not ask yet sat quietly in her mind. What happens when two people meet at the wrong time, but in the right place? As she drove back to the lake once more, she knew the answer would not be easy, and she knew part 4 would change everything. The next few days felt different from anything she had known before. There was a quiet weight in the air now, like something important was waiting to happen. Every time she woke up, she thought about the lake, about Sam, about the way their conversations had slowly grown deeper without either of them pushing. That morning she stood by the window longer than usual. Her bag was half packed. Clothes folded neatly, then unfolded again. She had planned to leave the area soon. That had always been the idea. A short escape, nothing more. But now the thought of leaving felt heavier than she expected. She drove to the lake with a calm heart but a restless mind. When she arrived, Sam was not there yet. She felt a small wave of disappointment and tried not to read too much into it. She sat by the water, watching the surface move gently. The place was still peaceful, but it no longer felt like just a hiding spot. It felt like a place where truth waited. After some time, she heard footsteps on the dirt path. She looked up and saw Sam walking toward her, slower than usual. His shoulders were tense. His smile, when it appeared, was softer and uncertain. "Hey," he said. "Hey," she replied. They sat down, but something was different. The silence between them was no longer relaxed. It was careful. "You're leaving soon, aren't you?" Sam asked quietly. She looked down at her hands. "I was planning to," she said honestly. "I didn't expect this." "Neither did I," he said. They both knew what this meant. The connection, the comfort. The way they had begun to matter to each other. Sam took a breath. "I don't want to pretend this doesn't mean anything," he said, "but I also don't want to make things harder for you." She felt a tightness in her chest. "I've been trying to tell myself the same thing." They talked for a long time that day, longer than ever before. They spoke about fears they had not shared yet. She told him about why she left the city, about a future she once believed in that slowly disappeared, about how starting over felt lonely and confusing. Sam told her about staying when others left, about responsibility and duty, about choosing the land over easier paths and sometimes wondering what life might have been like otherwise. "I don't regret my life," he said. "But sometimes I wonder if I built walls without realizing it." She nodded. "I think I did the opposite. I trusted too easily." Their honesty felt heavy, but it also felt right, like cleaning an old wound and finally letting it breathe. That evening the sky turned orange and pink as the sun lowered. They sat side by side, closer than ever before, their shoulders almost touching. "Can I ask you something?" Sam said. "Yes. If you weren't leaving, what would you want this to be?" She closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, she spoke slowly. "I would want to keep learning who you are, without rushing, without fear." He smiled, sad and warm at the same time. "That's what I'd want too." But reality did not disappear just because feelings were real. The next day, she did not go to the lake. She needed space to think. She walked around town, visited small shops, tried to imagine leaving without regret. Every road reminded her of him. Every quiet moment felt louder. That night she barely slept. The following morning she went to the lake early, earlier than usual. The sun was just rising. Sam was already there, sitting near the water. "I knew you'd come," he said. She sat beside him. This time their shoulders touched. Neither moved away. "I leave tomorrow," she said softly. He nodded. "I know." They sat in silence, watching the light spread across the lake. She reached out slowly and rested her hand on the ground near his. He did not move, but his fingers shifted slightly closer. The small contact felt powerful, not rushed, not forced. "I don't want to say goodbye like this," she said. "Neither do I," he replied. "But I don't want to ask you to stay for the wrong reasons." She looked at him. "You're not the wrong reason," she said. "You're just not the only one." He understood. That was what made it hurt. They spent that last day together without trying to hold on to time. They walked, talked, shared quiet moments. No promises were made. No future was planned. But something real existed between them, and neither denied it. As evening came, she stood by her car, keys in her hand. "I don't know what happens next," she said. Sam met her eyes. "Neither do I, but I know this mattered." She nodded, her throat tight. "It really did." She drove away slowly, looking back once before turning the corner. Sam stayed by the lake, watching until the dust settled and the road was empty again. That night, both of them lay awake, staring at different ceilings, thinking the same thought. Some connections come into your life not to stay forever, but to change you in ways you never expected. And the hardest part is not knowing whether letting go is the end or just the beginning. The morning she left felt heavier than she expected. The sky was clear, the kind of clear that made everything look sharp and honest. She loaded her bag into the car slowly, taking her time with small things because she was not ready for the bigger moment yet. Every sound felt louder, the door closing, the engine starting, the gravel under the tires. As she drove away from the town, she told herself she was doing the right thing. Her life was waiting somewhere else. Responsibilities, plans, unfinished chapters. She could not stop her whole world for something that had no clear shape yet. Still, knowing something is right does not always make it easy. The road stretched ahead, long and quiet. She passed the familiar turns, the fences, the open land. When the lake came into view one last time, she did not stop. She kept driving, even though her hands tightened on the steering wheel. She did not trust herself to look back again. Hours later, the landscape slowly changed. Open fields turned into roads with more cars. Silence turned into distant noise. By the time she reached the city, it felt like stepping into a different life. Buildings stood tall, people moved quickly, and no one noticed the quiet storm inside her. The first few days were hard. She returned to her routine, but it felt strange, like wearing clothes that no longer fit. She woke up early without meaning to, expecting quiet, expecting water, expecting Sam. Instead, there were horns, phones ringing, and crowded sidewalks. At night, she thought about the lake, about the way time moved slowly there, about how Sam listened without trying to change her. She wondered if he was back there, sitting by the water alone. The thought made her chest ache. She tried to push it away. Life had to move forward. She met friends, went back to work, filled her days with tasks. From the outside, everything looked normal again. But inside, something had shifted. She was not the same person who left. Weeks passed. One evening, while cleaning out her bag, she found a small stone. Smooth and gray, she picked it up and smiled sadly. She remembered Sam skipping stones across the lake, the simple joy of it. She sat down and held the stone in her hand for a long time. That night she made a decision, not a big one, not dramatic, just honest. She sent him a message. She did not know what to say at first. There were too many thoughts, too many emotions. In the end, she kept it simple. She told him she hoped he was well, that she still thought about the lake, that she was grateful for the quiet days they shared. She did not expect an answer right away, but when her phone buzzed later that night, her heart jumped. Sam wrote back with the same calm honesty she remembered. He said he was glad she reached out, that the lake felt different now, quieter in a new way. That he thought about their talks more than he expected. They began to message sometimes, not every day, not with pressure, just small check-ins, simple words, honest thoughts. It felt safe. Months passed like this. Life slowly settled into a new rhythm. She grew stronger, more sure of herself. She made changes she had been afraid to make before. She said no when she needed to. She chose herself more often. And through it all, Sam remained a quiet presence in her life. Not demanding, not distant, just there. One day she found herself with time off she had not planned, a long weekend. She stared at the calendar, then at the stone on her desk. Without overthinking it, she booked a trip. The drive back felt familiar, but she was not the same person now. She was calmer, steadier. When she reached the dirt road near the lake, her heart beat faster, but it was not fear. It was clarity. She parked under the same tree. The lake was just as she remembered. Calm, open, honest. She stepped closer, breathing in the quiet. For a moment she wondered if he would come. She told herself it was okay if he did not. This place was still important with or without him. Then she heard footsteps. She turned. Sam stood there just like before, but different too, older in a good way, softer, more certain. "You came back," he said. "So did you," she replied. They smiled, not rushing forward, letting the moment breathe. They sat by the water again, side by side. This time their shoulders touched without hesitation. They talked about everything and nothing. About how life had changed, about what they learned while apart, about fear and growth and patience. "I'm not here to escape anymore," she said. "Neither am I," he replied. They did not make big promises. They did not rush to define anything. They understood now that real things do not need to be forced. They grow when given space and care. As the sun lowered, she realized something important. This story was never about a lake or a moment or even a cowboy standing by a fence. It was about timing, about healing, about meeting someone who reminds you who you are when you almost forget. Some connections arrive quietly. They do not shout. They do not demand. They wait. And sometimes when both people are finally ready, they do not end. They begin.